Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Conversations Live and Cyrus Webb Presents. Glad you all could be with us once again. We're simulcasting for our audience tuning in on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, and on Instagram. We're about to bring in our family on Amazon Live as well. For those joining us on the radio side, we welcome you guys tuning in at Max WYAD 94.1 FM and WYADonline.com. We're glad that you all can be with us. Have two brothers that are joining us today for our segment. They've written a series that definitely, I think, has people talking. And we welcome those tuning in on the Amazon side. If you guys are new to us on Amazon, welcome. Make sure you guys do hit that follow button. You see it here in this corner or down below. You also will see the two books by our next guest. We're excited to welcome Chris Strickland and Rick Strickland to our broadcast today. We want to talk to them not only about what it's been like for them to talk about some important topics in their series, but you guys can actually see the books here with me. The Anatomy of a Cheating Man. We have part 1 and part 2 here. Both of them are available on Amazon, both in paperback and in Kindle. And for you guys joining us on Amazon, you'll see them there. We're going to talk to the brothers not only about the writing of the books, but also what it's been like for them to see the response. And of course, that you guys know how to stay connected with them. If you guys have any questions or comments for Chris and Rick, make sure you guys put those in the chat for us. But guys, thanks a lot for the time. Really appreciate it.
We appreciate you for having us.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Glad to do it. Rick, I'm going to kick things off with you. I mean, when people hear the title, the autopsy of a cheating man, that is not a topic that a lot of times people end up guys writing about. Typically, that's something the ladies discuss, but I think people really enjoy these series. The books, I definitely will keep your attention. What has it been like for you, Rick, to see the response to the books?
Well, I'll tell you this. What you said is absolutely right. Normally, you wouldn't see guys putting something out like this, but from our standpoint, it is a need. I think it's something that needs to be put out there in a sense from a healing perspective, because a lot of men are dealing with this. It's kind of like an addiction, I would say. It's an addiction because it is something that seems to be out of control right now.
Yeah.
But just because it's out of control doesn't mean it's something that can't or will not receive a correction or a way to fix it.
Right.
So, but for me, like I said, it was mainly the response you were asking about, though, right?
Right.
Yeah. The response we're getting initially was, why would you put this information out there?
Gotcha. Well, I think that is what some people will wonder, but I tell you, in reading the books, you'll see why it's so important. Chris, I want to ask you a similar question. What has it been like for you to see the way that people are responding to the books?
I would say it's been kind of similar. We got guys who are kind of like, man, I can't let my wife or my girlfriend read the book, Whereas, the women, they love it, they're all into it, but the men, they don't want this information to be known,
Well, look, I guess that brings up then an obvious question on how this all started. So, Chris, I'll stay with you. I mean, as far as writers go, have you always known you wanted to be a writer, or how did you come up with the idea to be able to write this story?
Sure. So I never really had the idea to be a writer. I was more of a had the idea of being a speaker,
Okay.
And so, but in talking with my brother, we always, even though I'm in Ohio, he's in Florida, but we always we stay on the phone, with each other, and just sharing different things that we go through, that other men go through. And so we thought it would be a good idea because a lot of the topics we discussed was always about relationships, Yeah. And so we thought it would be a good idea to start kind of jotting these things down, that we were talking about, because we were talking about some good stuff, and we were like, man, more people need to hear about this, And so it kind of started developing into a book. We started kind of writing it down, and we said, why not put it in a book? Why not make a book about it? And so it kind of just developed from that,
Right. Love that. And Rick, what about for yourself? I mean, your brother mentions, speaking was more his thing. Have you always wanted to be a writer?
Well, what's funny is that I started out writing while I was in the military. I was writing down things as they came to me.
Okay.
And I started off with a short story poetry book. which kind of led to what me and my brother, what we did up to this point.
Mhm.
But the book itself was something that, as we ran ideas, across each other, I'm telling you, we just started talking about those stories, and we always have people come to us asking for advice.
Mm.
It started kind of in that way.
Okay.
They're asking for relationship advice, or they're telling us about different types of things struggles that they go through in relationships. So, we figured, hey, since we're doing this, we can put this in a book, and so to help more people than just the people we're talking to.
Right. I think that's such a great thing. Now, I should let our audience know, I've had the privilege of reading the books. I was introduced to them last year. But for those who don't know, even though we are talking about something real, and that being dating, relationships, infidelity, we should let our audience know that these are novels where you're able to address these issues. So I'm curious then, Chris, to come to you. How did you guys come up with the characters that you wanted to present for these books?
So the characters are kind of a combination of,
Yes.
myself, my brother, different people that we know.
Okay.
We just took different pieces of all of that and put it into one person, if you will, for the guy in the book.
Okay.
And then for the women, it's just kind of the same thing in a sense. Women that we know, women that we talk to, because like my brother mentioned, people love to just come and talk to us about their relationships.
Mhm.
And so we just kind of built it from that, from different experiences that we have with different people.
Got you. So, Rick, for yourself, then, I mean, with Chris mentioning him putting it out there that you guys kind of built these characters based on compositions. I mean, have you seen people giving you the side eye, kind of wondering?
Well, I mean,
you guys wanted the book?
just like Chris said earlier, I have a lot of friends that will not take the book home. They'll buy it. They'll purchase the book, but they'll read it at work.
Right.
And a lot of them will not take the book at home because they don't want their wife getting a hold of it. And I know one lady told me that she said, I'm going to purchase the book and I'm going to read it with my husband. And I was like, oh my God, he's going to feel uncomfortable.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
and I think that the characters in the book are very interesting, but I think too, there's that song that comes to mind when a woman's fed up, and how sometimes there's collateral damage in these situations. One thing I like about the books, and again, there's part one. You guys can be to get them. I highlight for you guys again on Amazon. You guys can get it there for $12.99 for the paperback. There, you can get the part two also for $12.99, or you can be to get the Kindle edition for $3.99 for the first part and $4.99 for the second book. But what I thought was so interesting is it does show that when it comes to infidelity, when it comes to these decisions that are made, there are always consequences. Chris, is that one of the things you wanted to kind of show, even though these are stories or novels, but it does show that there are real consequences to your actions?
Most definitely. We wanted to really bring out, we want to make our words in the book visual, if you will, so that you can kind of see the step-by-step process, if you will, of how a man ends up into infidelity, and what can happen as a result of it, and there's even more things than what we have in the book, but we did want to show some of the consequences in the book of what happens when you step out.
Right. And Rick, I want to mention something else that I thought was really interesting in part one of the book. I thought it was something I was not expecting, and there is, there's a think about it section here, so for our audience can see there. But what I thought was really interesting is that you had a place to write a prayer. Let's talk about that. So, I mean, as we're talking about these books, yes, of course, people will find it entertaining, but talk to us about, again, on the real world level, what you hope these books would do, Rick, when it comes to sparking conversations, not only with men, but also with men and women about relationships and fidelity.
Well, I was hoping that, I'm sure Chris also was, that it would create a open door for open communication when it comes down to relationships. A lot of times, like I was talking to Chris the other day, you know, I was in a group of men talking about uh, some of the things that we deal with in relationships, whether married or just in a long-term relationship or even short-term.
Yeah.
And I noticed that a lot of the men will not even open up to each other until one person says something.
Yeah.
Like, for example, um, one man said, brothers, I just got to tell y'all, I'm just struggling with looking at other women, even though I'm married.
Yeah.
So the rest of them said, they just broke out and said, me too, brother. I didn't realize you was going through that also. So it just trying to do something to where we create a open flow of communication between each other, just being honest, because I noticed something, even an alcoholic, if you're talking about alcoholic, if they're not able to admit that they have the problem, then they can never heal the problem.
Right. Right. So true. Chris, what about for yourself? I mean, talking about what the real world impact of these stories, the books can be a great conversation piece, as Rick just mentioned. What do you hope these books do in sparking conversations like what Rick was talking about when it comes to guys not only being able to have this conversation together, but maybe even having them with their significant other?
Sure. One of my hopes for these books is, I mean, you want the book to be entertaining for people. I mean, that's one thing, you know.
Right.
But the main objective and main goal is to get people to start thinking about their choices. You know, to get people to start thinking about what can this do to my family. You know, what can this do to my kids? You know, because my brother and I, we're products of this. You know, our dad stepped out on our mom. You know, so and it was devastating growing up. It caused a lot of you know, pain and hurt in my mom, and you know, things like that. And we missed out on a lot of things with our dad because of that. You know, so I want people to start, you know, looking beyond that decision to step out and think about what it can do to the family. You know, that's another family broken up, another family put behind financially, or whatever the case may be. Kids growing up without their father, all that kind of stuff plays into it. You know, and the woman scorned and hurt. You know, it's so many things that comes as a result of it. You know, and I want people to start thinking about that. You know, so.
It's such an important thing for sure. So you guys have 2 books under your belt. Rick, is there plans for a part 3?
Well, we were discussing it because what I was thinking, in a sense, that if you remember the way the last book ended, it was like it was left open for just to carry on with another book, to maybe write another book. It was left kind of in that situation the way we ended it.
Chris, what about you? Are you always coming up with ideas for what's next, or is there another topic you'd like to write about as well?
I mean, we definitely, you know, we left this one open for that possibility. But there's always things to write about. You know, there's always things to write about. So yeah, we're always thinking and bouncing ideas off of one another. You know, so we'll see what happens. You know.
Yeah. Well, I found out about the 2 of you because of a writing event that took place in Ohio, my first trip to Ohio in 2024. So I want to ask each one of you your advice for other aspiring authors out there, starting with you, Chris. What would you say to others, men and women out there who may have an idea? What would you say about making this the year that they bring that idea to life and put it on paper?
Oh man, I would just say, just start writing. You know, start typing or whatever, however you're gonna do it. Just start. You know, and find you a quiet place somewhere, and just start jotting things down or typing things out. I mean, don't worry about the format. Don't worry about, you know, what kind of order it's in. Just get it from your mind to the paper, you know, or to the printer, or to whatever. You know, just get it out. Start getting it out, and then start worrying about organizing it later. You know, just get it out.
Rick, what about for you? What would you say to our audience about the importance of taking that idea and putting it on paper?
Yeah, I agree because that's the way I started. I started off writing one word at a time. As ideas came, you jot it down. You never know how it's going to end up. You just write it down and then start to compile it
and put it in order. You start to put it in order. But I was always told never go to the grave with a good idea.
Right.
So just make sure that you do something, you step forward, especially in the new year here.
Right, exactly. Again, everyone, we've been speaking with Rick Strickland and Chris Strickland, the authors of this series, the Autopsy of a Cheating Man, available here on Amazon. Guys, thank you a lot for spending some time with us. Really appreciate it.
We're grateful for you having us, man. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
More than welcome. And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Cyrus Webb Presents and Conversations Live. Until next time, you all make it a great one. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.